Do you worry that your characters aren't interesting enough? That readers might find them boring? Are they vibrant and detailed in your head, but on the page they kind of feel blah? And maybe you sometimes browse craft books or free online writing blogs or even podcasts. Maybe this is how you came across this video, right? Looking for tips to make them feel more epic and more 3D. But at the end of the day, they still feel kind of flat, and you just don't know how to fix them, right? Well, if any version of that sounds like you, then this episode is for you. We're going to talk about 5 reasons your characters feel emotionally flat on the page and how to fix them. Okay, so why do our characters sometimes feel emotionally flat? Well, here's the thing. I know your characters create great emotion for you, okay? Otherwise, you wouldn't be constantly thinking about them or wanting to write stories about them. That's just how it is, right? But just because you feel really strongly about your characters doesn't automatically mean the reader will. The reader isn't in your head. They don't know what you know or see what you see about your characters. Okay, so let's compare this to something else. Let's say that you love chicken salad or insert your favorite food, right? And because you love chicken salad so much, you love pretty much every chicken salad, any chicken salad. It doesn't matter what the ingredients are. It doesn't even really matter how high quality it is necessarily. You simply love it across the board. Okay, so even if it's a little bland, even if it's not terribly gourmet, you just love it because you simply love chicken salad. And of course, the more gourmet versions are far and away better than the bland versions, but the point is, it doesn't really matter. You just love all chicken salad, okay? But you have to understand that not everybody has the same taste as you. If you want to sell someone on chicken salad who is currently kind of on the fence about it, you'd better feed them the best, highest quality, most gourmet chicken salad you can find. The version that no one in their right mind could say that they didn't like. It's a little like that with your characters, okay? When a reader picks up your book for the first time, they are always on the fence about your characters because they haven't read them before. You love your characters the way that you love your children or your grandchildren or your fur babies or your significant other, okay? I understand that. But your reader doesn't know your characters like you do, not yet. And if anything, they come into your story feeling a little bit skeptical because they've read boring characters and boring stories before. They've been burned before. So they're not going to automatically fall in love with your characters just because you love your characters, okay? You have to give the reader a reason and a way to fall in love with your characters. And if you do it right, they absolutely will, okay? So let's talk about the 5 reasons your characters are not yet compelling enough to your readers. Number 1, you haven't created a compelling character wound. Character wounds are traumas that characters have in their past that have an enormous impact on who they are in the present, in the wake of that trauma, okay? And subsequently, those wounds have an enormous impact on your story. Without this, your story may not feel realistic enough, and your characters won't have enough emotion to truly hook a reader. So you need that character wound, okay? Reason number 2 is that you haven't created a limiting belief, and this grows from the character wounds. Limiting beliefs come out of traumas. So due to your character's wound, they have formed a limiting belief. A limiting belief is something that is not true, and it's holding them back, but they truly believe it, right? It's deeply psychological and emotional. And it shapes their reactions to things in the story, and it shapes their choices as they move through the story. So this is the true psychology of character and of human beings in general, and of our or their motivations. This limiting belief is why they do what they do throughout the story, why they react the way they do, why they make the choices they do. It's also the thing they need to overcome for their internal arc in order to transcend and gain victory in the climactic moment. I know. Try to repeat that 5 times fast, but it's true. So you need this limiting belief. You need to understand what it is, and that is how you start to understand your character inside and out. And if you understand them inside and out, you'll be able to communicate it better on the page, right? So this is really important. And all of that leads me to number 3. The 3rd reason that your characters may not feel emotionally compelling enough is that you haven't given them a transformation. I'm going to tell you a little secret. Readers don't read fiction for plot, or for plot twists, or for cool worlds, or monsters, or magic, or anything else that you might think. They read because they are yearning for a deeply emotional experience. We all actually yearn for that. It's part of being human. So, what truly hooks a reader, what makes them love a book so much that they recommend it and give good reviews and talk to their friends about it and post on social media about it, is a deeply emotional experience. Very often in the industry, we call this the catharsis. It is a release of emotions, usually right around the climactic point of the story. So, we have to give them that emotional experience if we want them to have that reaction, if we want them to love our story, if we want them to come back and read everything that we write. That emotional experience is key. It is actually completely vital if you want to evoke that reaction in your readers. So the next question is, how do we make sure that the story we're telling is deeply emotional? Because this is not about what you put in your story. This is going to be true no matter what your story is about, no matter what your character is, no matter what their wound or limiting belief is, no matter the genre, no matter the tropes. It always has to be highly emotionally compelling for the reader. So how do we make sure that the story we're telling ends up being deeply emotional? Well, there's more than one thing that goes into this, but probably the biggest one, the foundational piece, is to make sure that our character transforms in some way. Watching a human being change over time, whether for good or for bad, is immensely compelling to readers, okay? Give your character a transformation. Probably, most likely, it's going to be where they overcome something that leads them to achieving victory in the plot. And if you can do that, your characters will always be emotionally compelling. Okay, fiction at its core is always about transformation. Remember that. The fourth reason that they may not feel emotionally compelling is because you haven't made them distinctive enough. The human brain is wired to look for patterns. We actually feel safe with patterns. So when it comes to your character's looks, their attributes, their personality traits, even their voice, the reader needs to hear it, the repetition of it, enough times, at least 3 times, 3 is the number at which we recognize a pattern, to ingrain it in their mind as a pattern. This is how you create characters that your reader actually latches onto and feels like they know. And once they feel like they know the character, they want more of them. They want to keep reading about them. They want more stories about the same character. All right. So let's look at a couple of examples. The two that I think are the most potent and that most people will probably be really familiar with is Friends, the TV show, and also Harry Potter. So let's first start with Friends. 6 main characters, 3 men, 3 women. They all have really distinctive personalities, and they have things that they do and say over and over again that makes them very distinctive, right? Joey's "how you doing?" I mean, that's a line that is recognized throughout the entire world these days, right? Chandler's the way he talks, his tone, his intonation. Monica's "I know" and compulsive cleaning. All of these things are repetitions to make your character distinctive, right? And then people latch onto them. We feel like we know that character, we love that character, and they can use jokes that wouldn't be funny except that we know this character, right? If Monica just said, "I know," and nobody knew who she was, it really wouldn't be that funny. It's funny because she does it all the time, right? Same thing. Harry Potter, I mean, there's a lot of things we could talk about in the Potter universe, right? But I just want to talk about his description. She always describes him the same way. And for the most part, she only describes him once each book, maybe twice, maybe here and there that you don't pick up on as well. But she always describes him the same way, with the messy hair, the green eyes, the round glasses, of course, the scar. And so when we hear that, even though it's a repetition because we've read the other books, we feel like we know that character. We go, "Oh, yeah, okay, that's Harry. We know him," right? And that's really compelling. It's more compelling to readers on an emotional and a psychological level than you probably realize, okay? So make your characters distinctive. Just pick a few attributes. Don't go overboard with it, but repeat those attributes a few times so that the readers come to feel like they know your character. And remember, when they know something, when there's a pattern, psychologically they feel safe, which means they're going to love your characters and want more of them, okay? And finally, at number 5, another reason they might not feel emotionally compelling is because you aren't focusing on emotion enough when you write your scenes. We all tend to focus on the action when we write scenes. Yours truly included. I've been there, right? And that's actually fine, especially for your first draft. You're just trying to get a story down on paper, right? Totally understandable. But here's the thing. While it makes sense that you would conceive your story first based on what happens in the story, the plot, we all do that. That's how we absorb story, is by reading about what happens, right? we have this famous line attributed to Albert Einstein about how you cannot solve a problem from the same level that it came from, right? So we cannot be writing our stories from the same level at which readers consume them. We have to go deeper. We have to go higher level than that, if you will. So even if you're just doing action in your first draft, again, that's fine. You simply must go back in later drafts and put the emotion in and focus on the emotion. Eventually, you'll get to the point where you can kind of do it all at once, the more seasoned an author you become. But understand what I say what I mean when I say put emotion into scenes. I'm not just talking about, make your character cry more or laugh more or something like that. Of course, they're going to react to what's happening in the scene appropriately. But what I mean is more like understand what the character is feeling when they enter the scene. Understand how they feel about what happens during the scene, how the scene turns. How do they feel about that? Understand how they feel at the end of the scene and how it has changed from the beginning to the end of the scene, okay? Which, incidentally, is a mini transformation right there in the scene, okay? Again, fiction is all about transformation. And you see what I did there? That was repetition. See? So I'm doing exactly what I tell you to do. Okay, so let's do a quick little recap of the 5 reasons that your characters may not feel emotionally compelling, like they may feel a little bit flat on the page. You don't have a compelling character wound, which is a trauma in their past. You don't have a limiting belief that came out of their character wound, which drives their reactions and choices in the story. You don't have a transformation where they overcome something internally and that leads to their external victory in the plot. You have not made them distinctive enough in terms of attributes and characteristics, and you have not repeated those enough time to let the reader get to know your character. And finally, you are not focused enough on their emotions in the scene, and especially how their emotions turn based on what is happening in the plot, okay? So if you can fix those things, you will have very, very emotionally compelling characters. But if your characters are feeling flat on the page right now, chances are you are missing one or multiple of them, okay? So I just want to end here by saying, I'm really sorry. It really sucks. It sucks that you've been taught that writing fantastic emotional characters is supposed to be hard. It sucks that you've been taught that writing should be a struggle. All that does is keep you struggling throughout your entire writing career rather than learning and mastering something, right? It sucks that you've been taught to, just keep writing and eventually all the stars will align. All that does is keep your author success in the future rather than allowing you to experience it right now. And this is not how it should be. Every character you write should be emotional, relatable, and compelling to your readers. So much so that they stay up until late in the night turning pages to find out what happens to this character. Your readers should be clamoring for your next book and begging you to write more stories about this character that they've fallen in love with. I'm on a mission to spread the word about what it really takes to write characters your readers can't get enough of. It's all about the emotion and the psychology. And to that end, I created a mini course called Magnetic Protagonists. This course is only for authors who are ready to write characters that jump off the page, that grab their readers by the feels and just don't let go. Okay, the kind of characters who magnetize readers to them and their stories, hence Magnetic Protagonists. So if that's where you are in your writing journey, I will put the link to learn more about Magnetic Protagonists in the caption or the show notes. And if not, then hopefully what I have said today has been valuable to you and you can go plug it in to your current manuscript. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you found this valuable. Now get out there and write the characters that only you can bring to your readers. And make sure you have fun while doing it. See you next time, guys.